topics in HR.
Whether it's passive talent or it's active talent.
That's a soft skill that really gets undersold in the hiring process.
How to manage in the virtual environment.
You get a diverse cultured group of people, it's a win-win for everybody.
More conversion from candidate lead.
What does that look like in this new virtual world?
Welcome, everyone. It is Thursday, noon Eastern time, and you know what that means. It is time for Talent Experience Live. I am your host, Devin Foster, and this, of course, is your weekly look at the hot topics in HR, interviews with leaders in the industry, as well as hot new HR tech, covering everything that you need to know in recruitment, talent acquisition, as well as talent management. But before we get started with that, I always love to hear where everyone is tuning in from. So definitely don't be a stranger. Hop into the comment section. Let us know where you're watching TXL from. And also, sharing is caring. Don't be afraid to share this out to your network. Every single week, we cover great topics that are pertinent to the industry. So definitely share with a friend, a family member, maybe even a loved one. And also a friendly reminder, if you're not able to catch today's full episode or any of the full episode, you can always catch the replay on YouTube, on Facebook, or on the Phenom blog. It is www.phenom.com/blog. We are always every single week putting out recaps with nice little shareable clips, as well as a good write-up for you to share with anyone who may be interested. It looks like some people are already beginning to tune in. I see Monica is joining us from Ambler. Welcome. And John from Philly, welcome as well. I mentioned at the top of the program that we are covering a very special topic today. Today, we're covering driving gender equality and how to advocate for women in the workplace. For that to happen, organizations must provide resources for women to grow in their roles and careers so they can be the best versions of themselves inside and outside of the office. Today, we unpack that with co-founder and CEO Gemma Lloyd of Work 180. But before we jump into that and have Gemma on the program, make sure to have your voice heard. I see Ruhi is chiming in from India. Thank you for the comment. Love seeing that we are international and making our voice expand, as well as asking questions in real time. We will always do our best to have them aired on the program and answer them as well. It is tradition around these parts to do a bit of an icebreaker question, get the comments flowing in. And today, since we are covering women in the workplace and how we can support them, one of the topics that we dive into is benefits and such things as maternity or paternity leave. So my question for the audience is, when it comes to looking for a job, how much of a role do health and medical benefits, as well as resources for mental health, does that play in your decision-making process? So I'll give you a few moments to chime into the comment section to that. But while you are here balancing around trying to figure out where the comment section is, be sure to like and follow Phenom. We put out content on a daily basis. I can tell you right now, I did a webinar this morning. I'm doing Talent Experience Live right now, and I'm doing a webinar in about 2 to 3 hours. So definitely like and subscribe to our content. We're constantly pushing out thought leadership as well as product initiatives for you to share and hopefully make your life in HR a tremendous amount easier. To answer the icebreaker question, it would be unfair for me not to do this. So I'll say when I was young in my career, I paid zero attention to health and medical benefits as well as mental health support. But as my body has begun to break down and as I begin to lose a little bit of my sanity, it's something that I certainly enjoy reading about and seeing what organizations are offering to support their employees, and specifically women in the workplace as well. I see a couple people chime in. Rui says, absolutely yes. It is one of the motivating factors when looking for a new job. Someone else chimes in and says it's important. So I love hearing that. I love that we are talking about this more. And when it comes to looking for a job, it's not just about compensation. It's not just about PTO. It's not just about bonuses or anything along those lines. When you think about the amount of time that you spend in work and with your coworkers, it is important to take a look at the other benefits. Once again, today we are talking about driving gender equality and how to advocate for women in the workplace. And one reason we are doing that is over, the past couple of months, I've been in contact with Gemma Lloyd of Work 180, and their organization specifically helps find women in the workplaces. And we're going to jump into that conversation in a moment. But before we do that, I was on Work 180's YouTube page and I found some great content. And I wanted to start the show off with this fun clip from Work 180 to set the stage. So we'll air the clip.
Why should we hire you?
Qualified, passionate, and I'm an amateur botanist. Can I ask you, why should I work here?
We're open to flexible working, are committed to closing the gender pay gap, have a generous parental leave policy, and, most importantly, we're endorsed by Work 180.
Now you got my attention.
The real question is, are they endorsed by Work 180?
I love the premise of that ad because when you think of the traditional interview process, oftentimes it does result in the recruiter or the interviewer or hiring manager asking some very tough questions to candidates. But candidates also need to ask some tough questions to their employer. Like I mentioned, they're going to be spending the majority of their time at your organization. So by being transparent and letting them know how you are going to assist them, not only in their work and their career, but also in their life and what they offer for you is so important. Now we're going to move on to the interview. And I will be honest with you, since right now it is 2 a.m. in Australia, we did pre-record this with Gemma, but still sound off in the comment section. I'm going to be in the comment section answering things. We're going to follow up with Gemma afterwards to make sure that all of your questions get answered, specifically the ones that I cannot personally answer on the air. But with that being said, let's bring Gemma onto the show. We have a very exciting topic, executives driving gender equity and how to advocate for women in human resources. And with that, we have a very special guest. We have Gemma Lloyd, CEO and co-founder of Work 180, joining us today. So without any more further hesitation, let's bring Gemma onto the program. Gemma, how are you?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Devin.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. And greetings from the States to you over in Australia. I hope all is well.
Yeah, very well. A little early here, but all good.
No worries. Well, thank you for taking the time. Gemma, it is tradition on the show that I love to ask people how they got to where they are today within their careers. I oftentimes talk with VPs of HR, talent acquisition, and everything in between, and they all have the same similar answer as no one wanted to grow up being in human resources. So I'll ask you, how did you get your start, and what made you become such an advocate for DE&I, specifically for women in the HR space?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career working in the tech sector, which is very underrepresented by women. And in that time, I worked for mainly what I refer to now as these archaic boys' club type of environments. And so essentially what I wanted to do and how I got to where I am now is I wanted to create a place where women could go and find employers that genuinely wanted them there, that were committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And more importantly, weren't just trying to attract more women in, but actually serious about driving change and an inclusive place to work.
That's awesome, because so much of the focus in the conversations that I have has been getting diverse or different-minded people into organizations, but there's not much focus around keeping them there. I mean, there are employee resource groups, and both go hand in hand, right? I always love to use the analogy of human beings being just like any other living thing, right? If you plant a seed in the ground, it's going to want to grow, and it's also going to grow towards sunlight or towards water, whatever it may be. And I think the same thing can be applied. You're going to have a fortuitous, place for an employee to want to work, but also provide the resources for them to continue to grow and to continue to be
the best employee that they can be at your organization. So we talked a little bit about your past and how you got into where you are today. But I, unfortunately, put the wagon before the horse and didn't give you a chance to talk about what Work 180 is and exactly what you do there. So what is Work 180?
Yeah, sure. So we're a global technology platform, and essentially what we do is we help women find employers that are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. From an employer perspective, we help them attract and also retain women. So it's not just about getting women in the door, it's also about continuous improvement with those employers. So for example, last year we had over 40 employers improve at least one benefit or DE&I initiative, which resulted in positively impacting over 300,000 employees. So it's there's a real social impact piece to what the platform does as well. Oh, sorry, Devin.
No, you're fine. Keep going.
I was just going to say, and in terms of some of the employers that we work with and what we support, they include the likes of those big names like Microsoft, JP Morgan, Atlassian, as well as small businesses who are really committed to getting DEI right from the beginning.
That's awesome. And it's great to hear that businesses, large and small, are a part of this as well. And you mentioned that it starts with just one initiative that an organization can do. And that's something that resonates with me. And I think probably a lot of the people here at Phenom, because we have our purpose of helping 1 billion people find the right job. And whenever we say that, it seems like such a tall task, right? 1 billion is a ton of people, but it starts with one. And I think the same thing can be said with your DE&I initiatives. It may start with one initiative before you get the ball rolling and really to gather momentum. Now, Gemma, I know you said that it is early where you are right now, which is in Australia. So my next question is, we've had people talk about DE&I specifically in the United States. We've had people talk about DE&I in Europe. Based on your conversations, I know Work 180 is doing a lot around the globe. Why is it so important no matter where you are? And why does it differ from place to place based on your conversations?
Well, first and foremost, why it's important is for societal reasons. So if we talk about the US, for example, the US is ranked 30th in the world compared to all the countries in terms of where they sit on the Gender Equity Index. So, I mean, a lot of people in the US are pretty shocked when I say they're all the way down to 30th. The UK is even further behind. And so we're situated across Australia, the UK, and the US. Then there's the business reasons. So we know there's a ton of research out there. McKinsey have done a lot of research in this space that more diverse teams, they're more profitable for organizations, they're more productive for organizations, there's greater innovation that comes out of companies because they're having more diverse teams. And in terms of the differences across different regions, it's interesting in that there's a lot of similarities. So the way that women are treated, the way that underrepresented groups are treated in the workplace. But what we do find is that depending on the country, there may be areas where they're kind of even better or even worse in terms of their benefits and initiatives that they're rolling out. So for example, Australia has been really, really strong in implementing domestic and family violence benefits at work. So in Australia, 1 in 3 women are victims of domestic and family violence. And so employers are really kind of stepping up and saying, if you are a victim, we're going to give you 10 days extra paid leave. There are some employers who are setting up private bank accounts and putting additional funding into those bank accounts so that women can get out of those domestic family violence situations. So every time we learn about a benefit or initiative that employers are doing in one region, we share that with the rest of the world so that they can start, uptaking on those things as well.
Absolutely, it's so important, and that's a topic that I don't think gets talked about enough, right? Especially here in the United States. You mentioned that we are 30th, which we're 30th. I'm not going to go any further on that. But I think I know personally that domestic violence is an issue within the United States, and to hear that is something that other parts of the world are focusing on and really shedding light on and trying to make better or improve in any way, shape, or form, it is a great initiative here in the U.S. that you can share, specifically because over the past year, DE&I, when it's been talked about in the United States, has been solely focused on racial injustice, on Asian and Pacific Islanders, and so on and so forth, which equally as important. But I think when you're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, you're talking about all groups, right? It shouldn't be segmented to one specific group or anything along those lines. And it's also important that no piece of technology is going to fix that problem for you, right? That is an initiative that you as an organization have to adopt and have to have buy-in, which brings me to, my next point. I know coming up July the 27th, you have the EDGE event, which is Executives Driving Gender Equity. What are you so excited for with that event, and what prompted it, aside, of course, from the US being ranked 30th on the list that you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, this event is all around transparency in recruitment, specifically related to DEI. And the reason why that's so important is because employers on this journey, they don't need to be perfect, right? In fact, no employer is perfect in this space. What it's about is it's being really transparent. It's about being authentic, and it's about being honest in terms of where you're at in the journey. And if you can do that, and you can showcase those things that employers tend to want to kind of keep behind the curtain, but if you can actually really bring those to the forefront, it builds trust with the audience. And so we've got a great lineup of executives and speakers for the event who are really going to be sharing how that transparency piece, while some may find it a bit scary or confronting, actually has really driven great results in terms of their DEI.
That's so important, especially when you think about human resources. It really should be an extension that employees can reach out to if they have concerns or anything like that, and unveiling that really transparency that you had mentioned. You mentioned a couple speakers. Is there a particular speaker that you're excited to hear from most, a particular session that you're a part of or want to really highlight before we hop off?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough to be moderating the panel, which is great because I get to be selfish and ask all the questions that I want to know about these executives' journeys. So we've got the VP of Global Talent for GE, Deirdre Tully. We've got Tremaine Bass, who's he's now moved to Gap Inc. and he's a diversity director. And we've got Brielle Valley, who runs her own women's consultancy group on that panel. So we've got a really, really strong lineup of expertise there that I'm very excited to, I won't say interrogate, but asking them all the good questions.
Awesome. That is fantastic. Is it in person or is it virtual?
It's going to be virtual. So okay. Yeah, given the constraints that we are in today, it's going to be virtual. But the good thing is, it means we can get people from different places across the US to participate.
Yes, of course. No, that's super, super exciting. Now, obviously, Work 180 has been around for a number of years, and EDGE is something that you're promoting now in the US and focusing on the United States. But what are some of the success stories based on the work that you have done or heard in the past, either from organizations, maybe individuals, anything that you'd care to share?
Yeah, so I mean, the social impact piece is one that we're really proud of that I mentioned already, but other ones include success stories such as BHP. So BHP is a global mining company. We've worked with them for about 5 or so years. So they're one of our longest standing customers. Now, within the first 18 months of partnering with us, they increased the number of women applying to their jobs from 10% of their total applications to 45% of their applications. So they had a huge uplift. And the reason why is because BHP was one of those organizations that certainly by no means was perfect. But what they did really well is they were really authentic, and they openly came out and said, we're not perfect, but we are committed on this journey, and these are all the steps that we're taking. And every time they improved something internally, they spoke about it. So they've just been one of those really kind of genuine organizations that I think has done things really well. They've had really strong CEO buy-in throughout the entire journey. And so it's really shown in their results. And, if a global mining giant can do this, like really anyone can.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it reminds me of the sandwich methodology, right? Is here's something that you did well, right? You give yourself some time, pat yourself on the back. Here's where you can continue to improve and get better. And oh, don't forget, you're still making progress in the right direction. It's awesome to hear that BHP is doing that. So obviously you have Edge coming up this month. But what are you excited for past that? I mean, the journey does not stop on July 27th. What else is coming up? How can we continue to learn more about Work 180 and the great things you're doing?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't stop, and particularly if you look at the stats that the US has 65 years until they reach gender equity as it currently stands. So I'll be very old then, still fighting. But in the short term, yeah, what we have coming up is we've actually just released a gender equity index, which is a really comprehensive way employers can measure where they sit in terms of their gender equity. And I think, Devon, you raised a really great point earlier that it's not just about women, for example, it's about underrepresented groups. And so the great thing that the gender equity index actually does is really measure the intersectionality piece as well within employers, because women face the double bind if they're a woman and they're also a member of multiple or one underrepresented group as well. So that piece comes into it. Also looking at shared care comes into the gender equity piece. So men being able to take up parental leave as well as women, men being able to work flexibly. It goes both ways. So with this, employers can actually benchmark themselves, see where they sit and get a score to see how good they are in their initiatives, and then look at what they can change. So that's all available on our website. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we will certainly share the website. We will share the upcoming Edge event on the 27th, as well as more information. And also, hopefully, if Edge continues to be a success and we continue to get the message out there, we can knock down the 65 years, to a much more reasonable time. So hopefully, Gemma, you will be able to retire and enjoy your time off with all that hard work. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining. Like I said, we will share all of the information. And if you are interested in anything that Work 180 is doing, you can always visit their website. But Gemma, I wish you nothing but the best. I hope you have a wonderful day and look forward to having you on post the 27th so we can hear about the event and how much of a success it was.
Thank you, Devon. It's great to be here.
There you have it. That was Gemma Lloyd, a CEO and co-founder of Work 180, talking all about the Edge event coming up on July 27th. That, of course, is Executives Driving Gender Equity. So definitely feel free to check that out. You can always ping us on social if you want to get in touch with Gemma or find out more about Work 180. But with that being said, thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon.
And now from another Devon Foster. Definitely be sure to go check that out. Visit their website, get your organization approved. I do want to call out some of the comments that jumped out. 30th in the world, the U.S. ranks in supporting women. David Mayfield chimes in and says, wow, 10% to 40% is big. Of course, he's talking about the success that BHP, a mining company, had by getting endorsed by Work 180. And they're talking about their applicants being 10% originally just of being female and then jumping to 40% there. While you are on the Work 180 website looking to get approved and become a approved vendor for them, be sure to sign up for the Edge Think Tank event. This is on July 27th under the events tab. We will put links in the show notes as well as on the blog in case you forget. But with that being said, that was Gemma Lloyd, CEO and co-founder of Work 180. Before we sign off and let you go back to your busy days, I do want to talk a little bit about last week's episode, Total Transparency, Transforming Your Candidate Experience in a Tight Labor Market. We were on with Will Stanny, and he talked a little bit about, after more than a year adjusting to new business demands and norms, many employers now face the difficult task of filling roles in a tight labor market while juggling their employer brand as well as recruitment marketing. And in this clip, he talked a bit about being transparent about your diversity and equity as well as inclusion. So we'll air that clip. Be sure to check it out afterwards. where is the real truth factor? Where does that come into play for candidates? Is it seeing their coworkers and seeing these initiatives come in and seeing that growth with their diverse employees? Or how do you really, as an organization, showcase that you are making a difference in something that's so vital?
By being honest and transparent about it. Here's the thing. Few companies are good at this. This is a problem that is hundreds of years old. So we're not all going to be great at it right out of the gate. I think the problem that happens when companies put out there as if they are great at it to attract those folks, and then they get there and they have cognitive dissonance. They get there and they realize it's not as diverse as I'd expect, or actions that I see from leadership don't meet the words that they say, right? And that becomes really one of the bigger issues.
You can see how we connected the dots there from last week's episode to this week. In case you are just tuning in now, we just had a conversation with Gemma Lloyd of Work 180. Here's a quick refresher video of what they stand for and how they're helping out organizations. With that being said, let's air the clip.
3 years ago, we flipped the traditional job platform model on its head. In a world first, the power shifted to women job seekers. Instead of presenting your CV to employers, employers are now showing you their credentials. You can now see this information which used to be hidden before you apply for a job. Things like flexible working, paid parental leave, breastfeeding facilities, and professional development programs. Hundreds of employers have not met our criteria, but the good news is times are changing. Women deserve transparency in the workplace and won't settle for second best. Employers are now starting to change and improve their HR benefits. Join our revolution and see you at work180.co.
Definitely check that out. I want to thank everyone for tuning in this week. Thank you, Ann Kit. Thank you, Ruhi. Thank you, David. Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Devin, for chiming into the comment section. That's what truly makes Talent Experience Live so special, is that we're able to interact throughout the program. Tune in next week. We're actually going to be joined by Lifetime Fitness. That will be a great episode. Again, same place, same time, 12 noon Eastern time on Thursdays. Take a break from your workday. Grab a afternoon cup of coffee, maybe a morning cup of coffee if you're joining us from the West Coast. Chime into the comment section and be sure to like, share, and follow. If you're interested in learning more about the program or perhaps joining about a particular topic, you can always reach me on LinkedIn. And with that being said, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Thursday. I have a mentoring webinar coming up, and I think just about 2 hours. So if you're there, I will see you there. And I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. See you next week. Thanks.